Eminence in Shadow's first episode starts off with a pretty interesting subplot before we really dive into the main lore regarding the Isekai world it's supposed to be focused on. It's one of those episodes where they explain the previous world a bit more in depth before Truck-kun's arrival to send the MC to the next world. I also heard that this episode structured the chapters in a different way, and majority of this episode actually happens later in the source material. Though I think it's really interesting with what approach the producers wanted to take for this, I guess. My guesses are for the next episode we're of course going to be diving into the gritty of events that take place after our MC is Isekai'd. But rather than the main plot that involves this organization that he seems to be in charge of, we're hopefully going to see how the MC gets to that point, how he met all the members of Shadow Garden, and what their relationship to him is. Anyways, with all this out of the way, let me just run down the overview of what occurs in this episode. The episode starts off with Nara MC Kageno, but with a side character girl named Nishino. We get a couple of fanservice scenes for her at the beginning. They gave her the popular rich girl trope that a lot of romance shows tend to have from time to time. Akane and Kageno are classmates, but they don't seem to have much of a friendly relationship going on, at least in Akane's point of view. Since her family is pretty wealthy, Akane gets kidnapped by guys who I guess are thugs, even though one of them kind of looks like a rich boy. Kageno notices this and starts to take out some equipment that apparently he had in his bag the entire time to come and save her. Meanwhile, the cocky rich thugs try to do some, let's just say, questionable things to Akane. Kageno breaks through the roof and beats the living shit out of these thugs with pipes, or I think he called them tonfas. At the end of the episode, Truck-kun finally makes it and Kageno gets Isekai'd. Alright, now onto my initial thoughts for this episode. Even though I kinda already summarized the entire episode, I really liked how they decided to focus on Akane, who doesn't seem to be too relevant, at least for now, to the main story. At first it kinda did catch me off guard. I was thinking it was probably a gender bender isekai. Cause look, I didn't watch any trailers or anything before watching the first episode. I remember a few months ago, like accidentally stumbling upon the first preview. I don't know if it was the first preview or not. It was probably like a different, like one of the previews, since I was looking for some other anime at that time. But that's the extent of anything I've seen. Anything other than that is just from the visual posters. Now getting back to the main topic, is gonna be one of those rare cases in shows where the MC isn't as focused on as the secondary characters are. Like, the MC would just be more in the background. He would be there, he would be here and there throughout the episodes, but like they would want to focus more on like I guess side characters and like you know, other main characters aside from him. But with the way they really portrayed Akane this episode, she had a lot of potential to become someone relevant to the story and the MC. I don't really know if we're gonna see her again later on, though. I kind of hope we do. On another note, I'm so damn curious about Kageno. Personally, just feel like we didn't learn enough about him in the first episode. I want to know how he gets his powers, how he forms that organization he's shown to be with. But not only about him, I hope they go into depth with the female cast as well. Because it seems like majority of this organization is entirely made up of females. At least that's what I've seen from the main 7 girls shown at the end of the episode. I would say the setup and execution for the episode was pretty solid. I really loved how they focused on both Akane and Kageno. We got a pretty good idea of what type of character Kageno is and what his motives are, I guess. From the impression I got, the guy is just a vigilante. A motherfucker is literally Batman. Which is a bit unique when it comes to isekai protagonists. Nice to get a breath of fresh air and not just another copy-paste action fantasy. To sidetrack for a bit though, during the scene where Kageno was fighting the thugs, it was really out of nowhere. I found it pretty funny when he just brought up that he beats up biker games at night. Like, I don't know what that had to do with anything. He just randomly brought up like, I've been practicing at night with beating up biker gangs. So I'm loving the balance between the dark moments and the comedy as they complement each other perfectly. Lastly, I guess there's the animation style to talk about. The animation is really solid. I especially love the art style they're going for and comparing it to how it looks in the light novel. When it comes to character designs, Alpha and Beta are definitely my favorite. They just, I don't know, they just kind of look the most unique compared to the rest. Not to say the other designs for the other Shadow Garden members aren't great as well. I'm also pretty fond of the fight scene. As I mentioned earlier, the movements and choreography with Sid using the tonfas and the splash of blood coming from the bandits really shows how it's done. The animation is nothing extraordinary like Chainsaw Man is, but all I can really say for now is it does its job, and I haven't really seen any bland or CGI-ish looking frames so far.